Hello. I think Dunk and Egg is the best thing George R. R. Martin wrote for Song of Ice and Fire. Official title, A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, obviously. And it's finally getting its moment in the sun. In 2 weeks, we're gonna get a show. So I'm gonna do a little beginner's guide. No spoilers in this video. Spoiler-free video. It's gonna be a quick one. If you're here for the dragons, I got bad news for you. There's no dragons. They all died. But there's still fire though, and fucking blonde Targaryens. They're still running around. If you like tournaments and knights and heraldry and stuff,
you'll get all three.
And if you're wondering why I look like Huckleberry Finn at the moment, fear not, it will make sense in a couple of minutes, I promise. I really hope this show doesn't suck. Please, I don't want to complain about another Game of Thrones show. I'm burned out on that, please. Okay, so what is Dunk and Egg? Dunk and Egg is a series of short novellas written by George R. R. Martin set roughly 90 years before the events of Game of Thrones. He wrote them while he was writing the main series, the first one being released in 1998 actually, so it's concurrent. There are no dragons. Dragons are already extinct at this point in history, but by no means does that imply that there's no action or death or fire for that matter. It's quite the opposite. Ow. Instead of sprawling casts and massive power struggles, these stories follow just two people, a hedge knight, Sir Duncan the Tall, known simply as Dunk, and his young squire called Egg. They travel the roads of Westeros together, moving from place to place, encountering the everyday realities of this world, tournaments, villages, disputes, and moments of quiet moral testing. And that's pretty much it. Like, there's no need to memorize family trees for the most part. Like, the Targaryen family tree will always be a struggle, Jesus Christ. There's no encyclopedic lore dumps. There's no expectation that you already understand how Westeros works for the most part. Like, you experience the world as they experience it. So basically, like, one road at a time. You're on the road with the characters. There are 3 Dunk and Egg novellas so far: The Hedge Knight, The Sworn Sword, and The Mystery Knight, with 2 more short stories mentioned by George in the past to be in the works. These are shorter novellas, so the first season is set to cover the first one, I believe, so The Hedge Knight, so the shorter runtime of 6 episodes makes sense. If the show is successful, I would expect the following seasons to cover each novella until they run out of books and start making shit up like they usually do. Like, God forbid, but who knows. This season has to do well first, and then we can start panicking. It actually has already been renewed for a new season, like just found out, so we're gonna get the Sworn Sword, which is great news, and yeah, back to the video. So why is this the perfect entry point into A Song of Ice and Fire? It's kind of a bold claim, but like, I don't think that's that hard to understand. Like, one of the biggest barriers of entry in A Song of Ice and Fire has always been the scale. The main series is intentionally overwhelming in the sense that it throws you into the political complexity, like in the deep end of the pool, and moral ambiguity, like straight away. And that's part of why it's brilliant, and also why so many people are put off by it, unfortunately. Dunk and Egg kind of does the opposite. These stories are small by design. Like, you're not watching the world from a throne room, you're watching it from the dirt, from the perspective of someone who doesn't always know the rules, doesn't have power, and is constantly trying and sometimes failing to do the right thing. So I mentioned the tone, and I'm gonna go a little bit more into the tone. Like, it's a different kind of Westeros. There's something important to understand going in. Dunk and Egg is not a grim, dark spectacle. It's closer to A Knight's Tale, if you're familiar with that film. Like, there is conflict, there is danger, there are consequences, but the tone is quieter, warmer, it's more reflective. These stories care deeply about honor, about identity, about class, about what it actually means to be a good knight and a good person, and in a broken system. It's hard to navigate, and they really delve into that in the story. George does. And because the scale is smaller, the emotional weight hits harder. At least for me. There is less shock value in a way. There's more thinking and more reflection. Not to make it sound boring, it's just like a more introspective story. So who is Dunk? Without spoilers. Dunk is not a legendary knight in any sense of the word. He's not clever in the political sense, he's not especially educated, and he's not powerful. What he is earnest. Whether Dunk was actually knighted or not is actually left to your interpretation, which is kind of the point of the story, because his actions are what really matters. And because Westeros doesn't really reward that kind of thinking, Dunk constantly finds himself at odds with the world around him, which is really fun to read about, and I hope watch soon. Now, who is Egg without spoilers? Egg is a young, sharp, observant, and curious little boy who is Dunk's squire. He wears a straw hat, That's why I look like Huckleberry Finn at the moment. There you go. It will make sense in a couple minutes, I promise. He asks questions that Dunk doesn't think to ask. He notices things Dunk misses, and he challenges Dunk's assumptions, often kind of unintentionally, which is funny and cute. Their relationship is not a gimmick. It's not comic relief as some relationships were in the Game of Thrones show, namely like Jaime and Bronn. Their relationship is the emotional backbone of the series, and it really works. I can't emphasize that enough. And importantly, Egg allows the audience to ask questions about Westeros naturally without exposition ever feeling forced. I think the original Game of Thrones show also did this pretty well in the beginning, so I hope they carry that into this new show. So why are these stories some of Martin's best writing? And here it's mainly my opinion. I genuinely believe that Duncan Egg represents George R. R. Martin at his most disciplined and focused, because the stories are shorter, like every scene matters, and this is also true in the main series for the most part, but here it's even more optimized. Every conversation pulls like a double duty, developing character and also revealing the world. There's no excess, there's no indulgence. The world building is subtle, and you absorb history and politics through like implication, not through explanation. You understand Westeros better, not because it's explained to you, but because you see how people live in it. This also happens in the main series, but I find it here to be more restrained and powerful. If you're expecting like massive battle sequences, constant political maneuvering, and rapid fire like plot twists, you may need to adjust your expectations. Duncan Egg is about journeys, not endgames, for lack of a better word. Especially because like there is no endgame written yet. Jesus, we can only hope. It's closer in spirit to a road story than like an epic war saga. The tension comes from choices, from misunderstandings, from moments where doing the right thing has a real personal cost, but it's much smaller scale. And frankly, I think that difference is exactly why this show has so much potential. Now, who is this story for? These stories and the upcoming adaptation is ideal for people who are curious about Westeros but are intimidated by its complexity, viewers who value character over spectacle, fantasy fans who want like grounded human storytelling, and also longtime A Song of Ice and Fire readers who miss the quieter, more intimate side of the world. If you're a big fan of Arya's chapters in A Clash of Kings, but without like the misery and so much death, you're really going to enjoy this, I think. Side note, if you love heraldry and sigils and tournaments and like flags like I do, like you'll probably be really happy here. At least from what we can tell in the trailer, there's a lot of that. Final thoughts? I think Duncan Egg is a story that reminds us that epic worlds and stories aren't built only by kings and conquerors. Like, the point is that it's built by ordinary people trying to live with integrity in difficult circumstances, really. That's why these stories endure, and that's why they matter. It's why this upcoming show deserves attention, I think. Actually, I think the first Duncan Egg story was written kind of at the same time as Clash was written, so that would make sense. If you're planning to watch, now it's like the perfect time to step in, I think, or step back into Westeros. It's really its most welcoming door. If you enjoyed this guide, let me know in the comments whether you're new to Duncan Egg or you're like returning to it. If this is your first Game of Thrones show, that's super interesting. I'd love to hear about it. And if you want a follow-up video after the show premieres, comment down below and subscribe so you don't miss it. And thanks for watching. Bye. Hat test. The hat. Oh god, I can't see anything. This looks like I'm going to the beach. No, fuck. This hat's too small for my head. Why is this hat so tiny?